Greetings yet again, lords and ladies. I come bearing some very important news that is both intriguing and disturbing, and I have to thank my subscriber, the esteemed Lord Pierch, for bringing this to my attention. This news ultimately stems from a German gaming article that basically is an interview between the gaming site and none other than Swen Vincke himself, the Lord and Master of Lorien, in which he spills the beans about some key features concerning the Dark Urge origin story and path. I'll be posting a link to the article in the description for all to read, and if you don't know German, you can just translate the article into a language of your preference, in which case I would recommend DeepL and not Google, because DeepL is much better. But the essence of this revelation is that it will not be an easy path to follow should you choose to go down the route of the Dark Urge. So first we will reveal the interview with Swen, and then we'll dig more deeply into the psychology of evil as it's presented in the D&D universe. So again, this is an interview format, so I'll be reading the questions as well as the answers. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a really good game to play an extremely evil character in. You did a lot of evil things in your presentation, like murdering a child, or sacrificing parts of your party for an absurd plan. I think you're exactly the right person to give me tips on how to play the ultra-evil character in Baldur's Gate 3. And Swen replies, if you want to be the ultimate evil character, I would recommend you play the Dark Urge and follow his urge. Every time you have the choice to follow his dark thoughts, you do just that. Then you become really evil. What do I have to look out for when making those choices? What does it take to follow a dark path? Swen replies, you gain great power when you follow the Dark Urge. I don't want to give away too much, but your urge is connected to something very evil. You're often asked to do things that are very evil, and if you follow that, your power grows very quickly. But you become very lonely, and you end up alone. Question: one of your colleagues told me that you end up alone if you follow the dark path. Where did this idea come from? Swen replies, when you deal with people who are evil and have a lot of power, everyone wants to have that power. At some point, you have to get rid of all of them. Are there no companions who are more on the evil side that you can take with you? Yes, you can definitely take evil companions with you, but you have to give them something. So if you really want to play evil, you just have to get rid of any competition. If you take a companion, you have to trust them up to a certain point. So I would kill them all. Then I would become an evil god, which is possible. I would kill everyone at the first opportunity, so I don't have to deal with them. You can become an evil god? And Swen finally replies, without giving away too much, yes, you gain divine powers. Now the final part here is Swen talking about why so few people play evil. Question: why do you think there are so few games that let you be truly evil? Swen replies, that's a lot of work. We have that in the game because it was important to us that you really get a choice. Every decision has to lead somewhere. Statistically, most people don't play evil anyway. If 95% of your target group play good and only 5% play evil, then it's hardly worth the work. But even if it's only a few, I think it's important to have the choice, because otherwise, your choices aren't worth anything. Now, some of this should come as no surprise to anyone, but in some ways it is surprising, because playing evil in many RPGs often comes off as fairly unrealistic and, more importantly, inconsequential. Even with games I love, such as Baldur's Gate 2, consider the standard evil party members, Edwin, Corgan, and Viconia. And although they didn't feel like good people or well-intentioned individuals, they nonetheless were almost comical in their presentation at times, as it never really felt properly evil to have them in your party, nor to observe them in their actions. And that could have been due to all sorts of constraints that were present long ago, but it still felt very light on the evil. However, based on the statements that Swen has made, the Dark Urge is going to be a legitimately dark and bloody path, and perhaps, even likely, one that might even be very disturbing. The most important thing to observe here is surely that, unlike in many other games and even in RPGs, evil rarely feels costly. Sure, sometimes you can be a murder hobo or commit nominally horrific acts, but it only rarely feels consequential. Based on everything that Swen has revealed to us in Baldur's Gate 3, this is fundamentally different, and serves as excellent insight into the anatomy of evil from a classic Dungeons & Dragons perspective. You see, being evil and acting evil leads to certain consequences. Logical enough, you might think. You pay a price, and Swen has enunciated just that. If you wish to have the power of Baal, and let's be honest here, that at this point in time, it's basically obvious that the divine power spoken of emanates from Baal, then you have to betray everyone and kill them for the sake of the promise of power, because the nature of evil is such that it brooks no real competition. Evil beings are always at each other's throats, as there is no trust, and no one can afford to trust the other in their bid for power. Of course, there are different flavors of evil, from the supremely lawful and organized devils of the nine hells that dominate you through wordplay and false promises, to the daemons of Gehenna and the Grey Waste, who care nothing for law or chaos, but who embody selfishness and greed, to the demons of the abyss, who are pure rage and destruction, who do not even offer a pretense of trustworthiness. And in their respective ways, such beings embody different flavors of evil, and are different, but ultimately, they are all self-serving and willing to betray, despoil, and kill in order to achieve their goals. There is no camaraderie in evil, only the fear that this is the moment that your purported ally turns on you, whether lawful, neutral, or chaotic. This concept seems so well captured in the Dark Urge path that we might finally be getting the evil we deserve, an evil that is relentless, bloodthirsty, and power-hungry, and above all, one that ends up with nothing save for the power it craves. You can be evil and do horrible things, but you will condemn yourself to loneliness, isolation, and emptiness. Companions will turn on you in their own bids for power and survival, and you will be forced, indeed compelled, to eliminate them to satiate both your bloodlust and your need to be the sole proprietor of power, and maybe even becoming divine in the process. If what Sven has said is true, then this is brilliant, because evil should never be free. If you are committed to being truly evil, then you also need to be committed to losing everything you might have cared about in order to live out that urge, aptly named the Dark Urge. Now, some of this was actually present in Baldur's Gate 2, as when you became the Slayer, you lost reputation, something that was associated in that game with being evil. But you could never truly be properly evil in the predecessor games, something that is seemingly about to change. That said, I can think of one analog to the Dark Urge in gaming and RPGs, even if it's not a perfect one, and that is the mythic path of the Swarm that Walks in Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous, which is almost certainly far less fleshed out than the Dark Urge path will be, but nonetheless offers some parallels. In Wrath of the Righteous, if you wish to walk the path of the Swarm that Walks, you need to painstakingly follow certain decisions, and ultimately, should you choose to embrace that path, everyone, and I do mean everyone, leaves you, and you are perceived as so evil that even a goddess, who has been quite restrained up until that point, attempts to strike you down. You become the embodiment of destructive evil, of the abyss, a divine swarm that devours everything and everyone in its path, and all you feel is hunger in what is now a perpetual emptiness, existing only to sate that hunger. As I said, not perfectly analogous to the Dark Urge, but there are some striking similarities from what little we know about the path in Baldur's Gate 3. To play the Dark Urge properly, you will have to be willing to betray everyone, likely kill them, and destroy anything in your path in order to achieve your goals. You will be very lonely. Is it any wonder then, as Sven indicated, that most people do not choose the evil path, as most people, understandably, prefer to be good? And even given this, and despite the general lack of appeal, it was important to Sven to include it in the game. And as such, I suspect it can get quite depraved, if lopping off Gale's hand is anything to go by. I will eventually take up this path myself, as disturbing as it might be, but certainly not on the first run, which I have determined will be someone very much resisting the Dark Urge, perhaps of somewhat chaotic good tendencies. I want to experience the good, although I doubt Lorien would have made the path of resistance particularly easy. Still, I'm up for the challenge, and hope to successfully expunge the essence of Baal from my being, and fully devote myself to my friends and companions in the process. Before I go, though, I'd like to invite you to my Discord server, where you can discuss Baldur's Gate 3 with like-minded people, as well as other RPGs. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and if you could leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, it would be much appreciated, as it really helps out with channel growth, and I'll check you out next time. Take care.